The following podcast contains opinion and commentary protected by the First Amendment and fair use. It may also contain adult themes, adult concepts, and adult language not suitable for children. Viewer discretion is advised.
Why do we have to, every time Rachel says something, you're just like, oh, you're not listening. It's just like, I don't get it. She is listening. She's listening to every word you say. And she's presenting something, and then you come back and shake your head and sigh.
Okay. Anyway.
Submit to an interview.
Wow. Stop. Well, if you let me. We're moving on to the next question. We're not gonna get very far with that. So
they can prove that this is not the first time she's done it. But okay. Even if you disagree with me,
I felt like I was juggling a flaming chainsaw while having my leg bitten by a German Shepherd. Okay. All right. We're moving on to the next question.
What lawyer ever says that?
Well, yeah. You're welcome that I gave you that's such an easy way to roast me.
You know it's a possibility you might not win something. We're talking about the appeal.
There's no chance you lost this appeal.
Yeah.
You will have this.
Rachel, here, can I offer you like a cookie or something? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say?
Not that. In our case, we like our case.
I shouldn't have said that. Can we move on? Okay.
Yeah. Pull it up. These statutes were invoked.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on. You're getting. Okay.
But show me a case that says that, because your cases don't. I've read them all now. Just give me a quote from Holgate. Just give me a quote from Holgate.
Can you hang on? Can you hang on for just a second here? Okay. Lord. Okay. You are pretending. Wait. If you want me to stay on this, you need to let me have fair opportunity to answer, okay?
David, of 58 minutes, you probably talked for 42 of them. I mean, come on, man.
Okay, guys.
Hold on.
Let me...
I got the
Rachel.
case there.
Oh,
There's
God.
only the Rule 11. Hold on. There's other authority. What was at issue in that case?
We got to move on. We got to move on from that.
So, is the whole point. Try to withdraw it. There were other issues before the court.
Oh, for God's sake. Okay, Steve, can we move on? Because we're not going to get...
And then you come back and shake your head and sigh.
I know,
He
but...
don't have any authority infringed his copyright or whatever, that I interfered with his...
But way before my time. Way before I was there.
Way before you there. Where are these children?
Okay, you ready?
Where are they, David? This is the one thing that I think everybody wants to know.
Okay.
She's still 6 months pregnant. Can I show my belly? How would she have a belly in November if she miscarried in July or August?
Look.
It's still not appropriate for her to include that finding of fact. Where are the people? There were reasons that her findings would have been inadmissible.
My Lord. Steve. Oh, my God.
And then Rachel gets 5 to 10 seconds before you sigh.
Read the emails with Clayton, the emails with Greg, the text messages with Mike. Fine that it is, but something that purports to be.
Whatever.
If you would have won, obviously, if you would have won, you would have gloated too.
Here, sign something saying that you raped me, that Laura was pregnant. I don't know what that would be. I mean, she's been running around subpoenaing things, apparently.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your favorite cubbyhole on the internet. It is the weekend already, and here we are in the month of May. Now is the month of Maying, and it is spring. Spring has sprung. We are in full spring season. And even Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell has in the last week or two, I suppose, sprung into action herself. Spring has sprung, and so has Maricopa County. We could almost call this breaking news. Why not? Let's call it breaking news yet again on the cubbyhole. We haven't talked about this yet. Should you happen to pay attention to other people more than you do me, this is old news. And technically, this is old news from last month. Well, at least the 23rd of last month. So that's late breaking news, at least for us. But that's okay. As I've said before, we're a little slow to pick things up. Because we do have lives and things to do, jobs to do, people to make happy, money to make. All those things that make the world go round. But here we are. Here we are with this great breaking news. It's marvelous. It's so marvelous that Dave Neal has made a couple postings of it on the Bachelor Nation podcast. go visit Dave, the man who started this all in many ways. And this might have to be the subject for either today or another day. This is why Laura Owens hates Dave Neal. He put all the dots together very quickly and has been an ardent supporter of justice, a very vocal supporter of justice. And he seems to be just quite a marvelous guy himself. Without digressing into how I stumbled across this case, we've got to talk about Rachel Mitchell first. I want to get ahead of myself, and I just can't do that. There's way too much to do. There's too much to cover. So let's talk about Rachel Mitchell and what she released in regards to Laura Owens.
A different case, one that I get messages about every week. I'm sure you do as well. The Laura Owens.
How did I know it was going to be that case? No, I get them every day.
I know. I see those receipts.
Yeah.
Is there any update that you can provide on your investigation in light of the Court of Appeals affirming the original judgment?
Yeah. I'm at the point, we are still actively investigating it. What I will simply say is stay tuned.
And there you have it from Rachel Mitchell. You know, it's interesting. She caught herself about to say something else. I'm about to, something that indicated action. What were her words exactly? Let me see. Where'd it go? I'm at the point, we are still actively investigating it. I'm at the point of what? Was she about to say, one wonders. I think it's encouraging news. Very encouraging indeed that this isn't over yet. Not at all. And I was listening to Reality Steve the other day while at work, because this is where we absorb some of these things in the mundane of the daily workday. Rachel Juarez chimed in. I guess they had a little conversation, Steve and Rachel. That's not a surprise. She's been on his podcast numerous times, and we're grateful for that because she's brilliant. And she opined that this was good news. Obviously, something may occur. Well, may is a subjective word, isn't it? I think there's hope. I think there's hope that Maricopa County will actually do something about Laura Owens. And how could they not, given this gorgeous silver platter of offenses that she's committed? Why wouldn't you pursue that if referred by a judge? It's just too much for them to resist, one would hope. Even though long ago, there were a number of people that thought, there's no way they would ever prosecute this. But I think there is a chance. I think otherwise Rachel Mitchell wouldn't lead us on. She is an elected public official. It would be detrimental to one's career to not be investigating crimes happening within her district, or her county, I suppose, if they do it by counties and not districts, as some other states do. We shall see. We shall see. But I'm encouraged. Dave Neal is encouraged. I think a number of others are encouraged that Rachel Mitchell isn't done yet. And this has taken enough time where one wonders what the scope of these investigations are. David Gingras, in his appearance with Reality Steve and Rachel Juarez, towards the end suggested Rachel Mitchell's subpoenaing everything, apparently, was more or less what he said. I've got the clip somewhere. I'm too lazy to bring it up. Go back and watch it. Go back and watch it. It's there. It's somewhere. Actually, I think it's at the end of my best hits of Dingus the Douche Canoe. I'll refrain from pushing the button this time. I will save you some of that today because I do have other buttons. Yes, we do have other buttons. Because what may be going on is Rachel Mitchell has found more than just what Judge Julie Mata left to the court. There may be more to uncover. Could there be some financial things to investigate?
What?
Yes. Could some of the business dealings of the Owens family be not above board? We don't know. I don't know. This is speculation. What could she be digging up? other than what was handed to her on the court. There must be something. Again, we can theorize, we can opine. That is our First Amendment right to do so. But it would seem that Rachel Mitchell is leaving no stone unturned with Laura Owens. And since it seems her family is often in cahoots with her escapades and with her business ventures, as we may talk about in a moment, there may be a lot to uncover. Again, I don't know, I'm theorizing. This is speculation on my part. I'm not afraid to say so, but this is what any reasonable person, I like to think I'm reasonably reasonable. As opposed to medium smart, I'm reasonably reasonable. So we have to wait. We have to wait. And in the meantime, we will talk about other things. We will talk about what led me to this story and why the hell do I want to talk about it on this channel. The story is short and simple. Well, no, it's not short, nor is it simple. Who am I kidding? It's complicated. It's complicated because we as people are complicated and our brains are complicated. We shall see where this goes with Rachel Mitchell, and we're hopeful. We're hopeful that we might get some entertainment yet again. Well, it's entertaining. It's entertaining for me, but I'm also not. I'm also not a party of this craziness. So we have to wait because we know Dingus the douche canoe. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I've lost it.
The fucking douche canoe.
There it is. We know he's busy typing away. I can hear the clackety-clack of his keyboard, typing up more fallacious nonsense for his filing to the Arizona Supreme Court, all the way to the cubbyhole. And believe you me, the cubbyhole is quite a long ways away from Arizona. That would be an expensive plane ride. Very expensive plane ride. Not interested. Although, if there were to be a criminal trial of Laura Owens, I might be interested. I would have to extricate myself from the cubbyhole, get myself on a plane for a dozen hours or whatever, and have to suffer Arizona warmth, assuming it's not in the wintertime. But if there is such a trial, there may be a big party, and I may wish to be part of it this time, because I would just love to meet all these wonderful people who've gone to great risk to cover this themselves. When shy cubbyhole people like me were watching everyone getting threatened and hit with frivolous threats and claims of lawsuits, at least, Lauren, Dave, Liz Neptune, there have probably been others that have been threatened. I'm sure Law Talk with Mike. Actually, I think I've got that. We may have to go there next. We may have to go there next and talk about the origin story after all. I was going to talk about the money aspect of Laura Owens claiming that she's, well, I don't think it was said quite so specifically, but Laura Owens said she had no money. The implication being that she's judgment proof and it doesn't matter what fees or sanctions a court levels against her, that there's no money and it doesn't matter, so you're all wasting your time. I'm not sure that's so true. We know that Laura, in how she met Clayton Echard, was engaging Clayton in a real estate deal. Now, it's my belief that Laura misrepresented some of those claims of who the purchaser was. I can't quite recall where I remember this from. It might have been on a Dave Neal podcast or one of the other smaller ones who just happens to dig up information and share it on the internet. But I remember some paperwork. Involving the real estate transactions between Clayton and Laura, and she claimed to have a whole pile of money. I think it was 400 and something thousand in a money market account. In the trial, Deandra said $500,000. I think it was 500,000 in a money market account. At any rate, a chunk of money intended to be towards purchasing real estate for business ventures. Now, it doesn't take a genius. It doesn't take a genius, a medium smart person or less. I think what would be less than a low smart person? I'm thinking about the stove for some reason. Maybe it's getting close to dinner time. Low, medium, and high. Megan Fox is a medium smart person, and she's quite smart. I think we have to admit that. She's quite smart, and that's why her sister is an attorney. It's genetic. I think even a low smart person could figure out that it doesn't take one long to figure out who owns property and to do research on the internet. And when you know the names of all the principal characters of such transactions, it's not difficult to find things. It's not difficult to find locations. It's not difficult to find what buildings and houses and Airbnbs cost and who's paid for them. Because if you're taking in money, be it in a transaction or something like an Airbnb, it's easy to figure out who owns what. Businesses have to be registered if they are legitimate. As those of you who know anything about business and about public records, the two are inextricably linked. Businesses operate in the public sphere. Ergo, business licenses and records are also matters of public record because they have to be filed with the state, and secret business doings, unless you're the Mormon Church, although they got in trouble for their secret business dealings with filing shell companies to hide their hundreds of billions of dollars in assets. That's a little bit of a different story. Laura Owens is not a church yet, I don't think. But in that research of looking at assets that could be affiliated with Laura in this case to satisfy the judgment against her in favor of Clayton Echard, it had me thinking about the real estate deals and who was really the signature of those ventures. And it was my findings that it wasn't Laura who was the purchaser, but her mother. Because one can find a business listing for her mother and a property that was more recently purchased. I think 2023 was the date. I think it might have been May of 2023 to be exact, which coincides with many of the things in this timeline. And Laura Owens' mother, whose names are known, can be discovered in state business listing records. And therein, we find a website, strangely enough, hosted by the same website as Laura Michelle Owens' stuff and related ventures. And lo and behold, there's a rental property. You can rent it too if you really want. I wouldn't. Not all of the reviews on it are glowing, including one dated from March, but don't take my word for it. You can look it up. I've got all the receipts buried in my image file. I think it's here somewhere. I've got so many tabs open I can't find anything anymore. The plight of discussing things online when you want to have reasonable discussions. Oh, where is it? Oh, it's here somewhere. Oh, yes, there is a house. There is a house, and it's off of a major road. It looks like a cute little house, or at least these pictures make it look very lovely. But not everyone is pleased. A review from March 2025 of this home, ostensibly owned by Elizabeth Naylor Owens, a.k.a. Jan Black, said the home was adequate but not spectacular, and it goes on and on about the pool wasn't great, and this was a person who stayed at this location with kids and didn't give it very high marks. It's their opinion. Evidently, they had Airbnb move them to another location because just the outdoor space wasn't quite up to snuff. It says there were weeds, and in spite of the images of the website for this rental location, this rental property, it wasn't quite as stellar as it looked. But that was the opinion of this person here as posted on the Airbnb website. But if you want to go and find out for yourself, I'm sure the Owens family would appreciate you tossing a few shekels their way. I don't know what it rents for. Look it up. There are ways to find it. Help yourselves. Liz Max Investments would appreciate your business, I'm sure. And that's my plug for them. And that's all they're getting from me because they're going around plugging other things themselves. And we must do a Ron Owens GoFundMe check out of $140,000 goal. Oh my God, $140,000. You know, that's dangerously close. That's dangerously close to the $149,000 awarded to Clayton, isn't it? Is that a coincidence? I'm not so sure it is. A number of other people in the YouTube sphere have opined that they aren't certain this is going to Ron Owens' alleged medical bills either. Because this did not start very long ago, and the organizer, trying to remain anonymous, is posted as LL, organizer, San Francisco, California. Ron Owens, beneficiary. I think someone is trying to pull a fast one on GoFundMe, is my opinion. I forget exactly when this landed. Let's see. Comments go back. It was created December 31st, 2024. That was well after the trial and just before all the appeals nonsense begin to happen. I wonder if someone was preparing, which would be a wise thing to do. So perhaps all of the claims on Dingus the Douche Canoe's podcast,
The fucking douche canoe.
if you want to call it a podcast, and I really don't. It's just a mud pit for slap fighting for Dingus the Douche Canoe and his client. Chronicling that webpage is quite a lengthy process, because I suspect things will disappear at some point. When this doesn't go Dingus the Douche Canoe's way, I think he'll want to distance himself from this whole thing. Now, he still seems to hold hope that he's going to win, but I think just about everyone on the planet believes otherwise. And who am I to upset the majority there? I certainly don't think he's going to win, and we've said so. But there's the latest news from Camp Owens. That's enough of their news, I think, for today. It's interesting watching. These people want to have both the benefits of being celebrities and being wealthy, but they also want to live anonymously. And of course, as we know, people of entitlement and privilege want to try and do that sort of thing, to control and manipulate the world around them, and sometimes other people not so around them. It's asinine. It's absolutely asinine that people who have some means and are, by all accounts, living somewhat comfortably in their lifestyle are just such conniving, bizarre people. It's strange. It suggests to me there's a lot of damage up in the brain. It might be genetic. That's an opinion. I don't know. But it seems like the whole family is in on it. Others have made that commentary. Dave Neal has. I know others have. I'm quite sure Megan Fox has. It just makes you wonder, are these people just so full of themselves that they can't help it? No, that's not true. They can't help it. They just believe because they're a somewhat prominent, white, wealthy family that they can do whatever the fuck they want. And as one learns, when you start crossing the bounds and the boundaries of law, you're going to be in a heap of trouble. And I believe, and again, this is my opinion, I believe we're about to see something happen with Laura Owens that doesn't often happen to D-list celebrities. I think that may happen. I'm hopeful it will happen, at least. Rachel Mitchell certainly seemed to indicate that something may be coming. Otherwise, why talk about it? Stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned. And tuned we will be. After seeing that press conference, I've subscribed to that channel. So maybe we might have just a little chance of hopping on top of any news that may come of that. Although I suspect they won't make any announcements unless or until charging documents are filed. For the rest of this episode, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he was asking me, what the hell got you into this stuff? And I thought, I've been thinking about doing sort of a recap of this whole thing, beginning to end, while we wait for the next act of the three-ring Owens circus. Why not revisit more than a year's worth of history? This has certainly been a long time for me, and it's been a long time for Dave Neal and others for sure. They've invested enormous amounts in this, and they covered it for a lot. And while they've moved on to other things, and this isn't quite such the hot topic, because I think, well, they most likely think, as do I, there isn't much steam in this little engine before something prosecutorial happens. That's terrible grammar, but it works. It works for the for the purposes of a weekend conversation. So let's go back. Let's go back into the time machine just a little bit. And let's revisit where some things began, at least for me. And for me, it all began with this ruggedly chiseled fellow, Law Talk with Mike, attorney Mike Gravelin from Chicago. And let's hit on some old favorites, some blasts from the past. In the early days of Laura Owens and Clayton Echard, who's your daddy? And where are these babies from?
Hello. This is attorney Mike Gravelin coming to you from Chicago, as usual, and she's back. The Who's Your Daddy lady. I don't want to say her name.
We'll say it. It's Laura Owens, because we know Who's Your Daddy lady was Laura Owens. And for those of you who have not been invested in this case since the beginning, everyone was terrified to say her name. Dave Neal was. I think Mike was saying it tongue-in-cheek here. Because, as he's about to say, we know her name. Her name is discussed in what were released trial recordings or hearings. Was there a trial? Well, there are at least hearings. Let's just settle with that. I don't need to quibble on details quite so much. Just in the interest of time. But we know her name.
Despite the fact that she's gone to the press with this situation, I don't want to say her name. Although it does come up. It does come up in her court hearing. She says it multiple times. All right, here we go. We're back. We're back with this situation.
I became invested in LawTube quite some time ago. It was a little bit of a hobby, just watching. It was entertaining at work. In the mundane moments of work, it was very entertaining. So we became interested in listening to all the craziness of sovereign citizens, all these nut jobs who seem to think that laws don't apply to them when it's convenient. And I found it greatly entertaining to watch people who tried to scoot around presenting their driver's licenses, registration, and insurance to police when pulled over. And when they really got defiant, watching them get dragged out of a car. And if they were extremely defiant and or violent, watching them get tased. For reasons I can't explain, it was very entertaining. In the middle of a workday, listening to this nonsense. And lo and behold, what should happen to come across Law Talk with Mike? Then Laura Owens. Law Talk with Mike tends to gravitate towards court hearings and sovereign citizens, and he's quite prolific. He's got quite a large following, and this case landed in his lap. And there will be more. Let's just touch on some blasts from the past with Law Talk with Mike.
053952. We'll begin by having everyone state their name. Mr. Echard, if you can state your name for me.
Clayton Echard.
All right, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. Attorney Joshua Lopez representing Laura Owens, who's present via Microsoft Teams.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. If you can state your name for me.
Laura Owens.
All right, thank you. We're here today regarding...
And without going too much further, we know this is the hearing with Judge Cynthia Galketsis. And this was before Clayton Echard was even represented. So this is one of the initial paternity hearings. And this is the one where Laura Owens jiggles her tits around. Or as Megan Fox would say, the moon bump was up to her nipples. You know what? Can I find that real fast? That's the highlight of this hearing. We don't need to watch all of it because it's available out there. It's available in a number of places. I don't feel the need to rewatch everything in its entirety. But I think it's worth highlighting the things that are at least entertaining, if not interesting. And just to make it more comical, let's watch a little bit of it sped up.
As we like to call it. I don't like being on here. I'm afraid the accusations are going to come my way, even though I got in front of it.
Go ahead, Bryce.
Exhibit 36, I would like to admit that as well. This is a flash drive file. This was also sent to me by Laura Owens via email. She, in this email, which I actually have, I sent it multiple at one time or no? Or reference at least for now?
Okay.
So Exhibit 18 is a screenshot of the email that she had sent me with this ultrasound video that she claimed was, you can see on there, a million% real ultrasound video. She's claiming that was the ultrasound of our children.
I should back that up. Wearing a belly bump must be awfully itchy.
Or reference at least for now?
Okay.
So
it must be awfully itchy.
Is a screenshot of the email that she had sent me with ultrasound video that she claimed was
scratchy.
on there.
Oh, let's adjust that. Move the fabric over. Must be very uncomfortable. And here she is, trying to rub this fake stomach.
Mr. If you can just outline for the court specifically the way you received this.
Yes, I was sent this by Laura Owens. As you can see in the screenshot, this was sent from her.
It's not very convincing.
At 4:39 p.m.
I can't remember where the monster drinks, chugging the Monster Energy drinks were in this thing, but they might happen here somewhere. Something one would never do when they're pregnant.
I do not believe that it was in her ultrasound. So I started to
See, she keeps picking at it. She keeps picking at it, which lends far more credibility that it's a fake. And she's way up high. She's up at her chest trying to rub this thing. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous what she was trying to pull off. But this was part of her con. She got cornered and she had to start seeing some things through, even conning the court. Like this.
And the reason why I bring it up is because of the repeated or similar patterns of behavior that Ms. Owens had exhibited in this exhibit. And then I'd also like to bring...
I mean, what a ridiculous actress. Let's just play around with this thing on camera. I mean, how ridiculous. She should have been sanctioned by the court right there. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. More poking at it.
Then she dropped it to a week, and I did not agree to any of that. I simply said, as I said in here, drop the dating stipulation, schedule the test, pay for the first part of it, then email me and reschedule it, and I will schedule my parts.
Okay. Element 4, over the objection.
Now, I get it. It's just his testimony, and I don't know if she agrees with it or not because I haven't gotten there. But if what he is saying is true, and this guy seems to make a lot of sense, it seems reasonable to me. That is absolutely insane. I will take a pregnancy test if and only if you date me. Wow.
Yes, the dating contract. And she's still picking away at this thing. Must be incredibly uncomfortable wearing a fake baby belly.
I mean, seriously. Once you find out a BJ isn't safe, you're shaking. You know, you're shaking at that point to the core. She might hold him hostage. She might take him and force him to watch like a Lifetime Christmas movie with him or something.
13 of the objection.
Okay. I'm doing fine.
You have about 10 minutes.
That's okay.
That last little chat posting there was rather prophetic, because that's exactly what she did. She did claim to lose the babies next. It was rather predictable, I think.
It was a video that I posted to my Instagram. So Laura has claimed that my responses online were meant to defame her.
And she's still pulling at it. She's still pulling at it, playing with it. This is definitely not a woman who's pregnant. Does she not think the camera is seeing all of this? How dumb.
But again, this is showing that this is harassment by sending an email to him, asking him to take down posts or saying that maybe she is suicidal. And for the reasons I'm questioning, that does not be admitted into evidence.
All right, I'll admit 15 over the objection.
Thank you.
It's hysterical how high she's rubbing. I mean, she's rubbing up to her chest. It's insane. She has no idea what pregnancy is. Not a clue. Not a clue. At least not in this instance, obviously. And it's funny. This isn't the best resolution video. I think there's other better ones out there where you can see with better resolution things that are moving around.
Is that correct? Okay. And that was earlier this year. Is that correct? Correct. All right. And back in to give you her health information. Is that correct?
I personally would say that when she's claiming on the father, that the father time, I chose what I felt was specific to harassment itself, because she's done this multiple times, and I believe that she'll continue to do it. So I'm trying to, for one, stop her from communicating with me, but I'm also trying to bring to light that this individual continues to do similar repeated patterns of behavior, and is an extremely
I love watching her outrage here, because this is the first time her scam is coming to the open. It's no longer a hidden thing that she can keep between herself and the men she targets. And the airing of grievances commences.
Track with her not actually being 5 months pregnant twins, because if she had twins, then there would be fetal DNA present. She claims that there was an issue with the sample. She then submitted another sample that got caught up in Tennessee or wherever. It didn't make its way there. I can give you my own opinion on what I believe happened, and I believe the message may have been intercepted, but I do not know that. But I know that when she tests again, it's going to come back to the same thing. I do not believe at this point, I'm not technically questioning that she's not pregnant, because I do believe she may have gotten pregnant to corroborate her story, but I 1,000% she does not believe she's not 5 months pregnant with my twins, and that ultrasound that I have, she would not.
What an actor.
How are we on time?
Fairly short.
How much time do we get?
I would say 20 minutes.
Okay. Could you please remind me when I have 5 minutes? Under penalty of perjury.
Yes.
Now, when did you find out that you were pregnant?
On June 1st, I found out.
Okay.
Man, are you a whore?
Let Clayton know.
Yeah, I was like, no, on June 1st, I was pregnant.
How did you let him know?
I had gone to urgent care to get the pregnancy confirmed because I figured he wouldn't believe me. And then afterwards, I sent him a text telling him that I was pregnant.
Right there. It sounds bad to me. I figured he wouldn't believe me. It's only something spoken by someone who has such low credibility that they assume people won't believe them.
There you go. At this juncture, we need to slow it down because we have our first appearance of the one and only Dave Neal.
Well, you tried to make that happen. Is that right?
That's right. Yes. That was the
And
whole point.
that was the point of the communication.
Hello, Dave.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Look who's here.
Oh, look who the cat dragged in. Oh, man.
So you were off doing some Toys for Tots thing or something?
Yeah, it was just raising we do a little single mom Christmas gift kind of giveaway. So yeah, we just did that on my live stream.
That doesn't line up with the animal that you're supposed to be.
And it was at this point where the rabbit hole begins to dive deeper and deeper. Through my watching of Law Talk with Mike, in this case, and the entry of Dave Neal into the scene, at least in this forum, that's how I heard about this case. And as one might rather quickly say, the rest is history. But there's a couple of things that kept me interested in this thing because it was a little bit less about the case itself, other than it was absolutely extraordinary. It was bizarre. Nothing seemed legitimate. Laura Owens' credibility was tanking severely. It would seem that she was relying and hoping that everyone would rest in their biases of believe all women. And she claimed she was pregnant. You need to believe all women. Ergo, Clayton must have done something naughty. It would be a rush to logic to conclude so many things without more details and more evidence. And that's exactly what she was trying to do. And then when things weren't working out, she was scrambling to make up more parts of the story to try and boost her credibility. And so others picked up the story and started talking about it, trying to figure it out. This is the thing about public stories. We like to talk about them publicly. Otherwise, what's the point? So Dave Neal starts to share his investigative work and his experience in the case so far.
Well, hey, our community is super giving, but not everyone makes it to the nice list this year.
Apparently not. All right, we only have a few minutes left. I was surprised because I just got sent this a while back. Apparently it's been out there, but I just became aware of it.
Boy, yeah. You know what? Now that you're covering this case, it's like the movie Exorcist, where they throw the holy water. You're the holy water that's making this go crazy. I don't know what it is about you. Maybe it's the Chicago accent, but you're really ruffling some feathers out there.
Well, we pulled it into LawTube. We'll see, but that I was interested because she has this bump, right? And she stands up, and I'm like, I'm not buying it, but I don't want to say it because everyone's always like, you don't believe any women and blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, I'm not even going to say anything. My chat's not buying this baby bump.
That's what Laura was counting on, as I just said, and Law Talk with Mike just said. No one wants to say the thing that's obvious. This doesn't seem real. It doesn't even look real. And that's the bias that Laura Owens was hoping to exploit with just about everyone. And it didn't stop with the men of the YouTube space. Oh no. There's plenty of women. Plenty of women, including women that have actually been pregnant, who start jumping in on the case.
Hey, everyone can have their opinion, right? I mean, some of these bumps, these prosthetics will go only to the sleeve, and some will go down. Like they go in different areas, I guess. And when you use them for film and TV, you have to just know if you're going to be using a prosthetic, how to position it so it looks real. But I think the whole time she's standing, now my wife's pregnant, she stands as little as possible. But I think this whole court case, she's standing up at the desk, and which is kind of like confusing. Then the part 2 that you watched last week was a tight shot on the face. So this one, it's like very much, but you have to remember this court case, they didn't know this was being live streamed to the audience. They thought they were in like a closed court, as far as I'm concerned. I think that's what their belief was. So it was almost like they wanted the courtroom to see the belly, but not the public scrutiny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the other thing, which in the second part, but my first hearing, that I saw, I didn't really see Clayton talk. He was there and he wasn't saying anything, and that was appropriate because she was testifying.
Right.
So, but he talks and he does this thing. First of all, he's representing himself. Honestly, he's doing a really good job. He's struck me as a very reasonable guy.
Oh yeah, I don't think he was prepared for like objections and those things that like a layman wouldn't understand, but he just went in it with a lot of naive hope. And after watching this video you're watching, that's when we set up the GoFundMe for him, just to be like, dude, you got to get some counsel and like let them give you a fighting shot here, because it just kind of felt like he wasn't necessarily, he
certainly doesn't know procedure.
Right.
But even that, he strikes me as a very intelligent guy. He didn't try to BS about it. It was sort of charming. He's like, he basically said, "Judge, can I do a closing argument now?" And she's like, "No, it's not time. We have to have a testimony from the other side."
He's like, "I watched Law and Order. I thought I'd do my closing testimony now." Yeah.
But then he's like, okay. And then, he gets some of those things confused. But in terms of the logic and his demeanor, he was very reasonable.
Right. Like, how would you rate him just from a credibility standpoint, as far as like how he comes off? I know, he
struck me as very credible. The one thing is but although I have explanations for this, but I think their best point is when they say that he was suggesting an abortion or this, that.
But there is more to cover with Law Talk with Mike that captivated my interest. Oh, so much more. And here we have an additional appearance with Dave Neal and Law Talk with Mike. I think this is actually the first appearance of Dave on Mike's programming, where they talk about the case of what would later be known as Laura Owens versus Clayton Echard, a paternity scandal. It wasn't quite framed as a scandal yet, but there were a lot of questions, and a lot of astute people were wondering, why is this woman so disingenuous? Why is she so questionable? And why is she ultimately why do people feel like she has no credibility? And those questions over time were answered quite clearly. We don't need to play much of this from Law Talk with Mike, because this is Dave just basically explaining the case of who Clayton is and who Jane Doe is, as she was known at the time. But later, not very much later, Laura Owens would make her first mistake, going after Law Talk with Mike.
Is Laura Owens pregnant with twins? Is Clayton Echard the father? I don't know. I really don't. I'm very skeptical of that. But I've fallen into this rabbit hole. I've done a few videos on it. I do now have a playlist called Who's Your Daddy? And I was just doing a stream on one of the appearances, and a lot of people were asking for this. Laura Owens sent me a goofy email threatening me. I read it, but I did it at the end of a stream, at the end of a long stream, and a lot of people can't find it. So I just cut that off from there. Also, there's a little bit from the last stream I did that I missed, so I added that on here too. You can also see a portion of her belly. And judge for yourself if that's convincing to you. Let's do it. I'm sorry. I guess what I can give you, since there's some requests for it, I got contacted by, I can't remember her name, the woman who was in the Who's Your Daddy video. The woman claiming that the Bachelor contestant is the father of her babies. I won't put it up because then it'll put her email out there, but so you'll have to take my word for it. I'm going to read it. We're going to have a dramatic reading of this. By the way, I get this nonsense all the time. Just so you guys know, I rarely share it, but I get this kind of nonsense all the time. I'm incredibly used to this, but it's kind of fun. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see what we have here. Mr. Gravlin. This is her now. This is directly from her email. I am reaching out regarding tonight's live stream with Dave Neal. After my earlier request for the removal of Who's Your Daddy episode, I wasn't aware there was an earlier request, but I don't doubt it. This comes to me through my email, which I rarely check because I get too many of them every day. I was stunned to find this new content, which perpetuates defamation. No, it doesn't.
I don't think those words mean what you think they mean. Harassment and is a severe breach of my privacy. No, it's not. During tonight's show, new content was aired that included unauthorized portions of my TED Talk. I got to get it. I got to get it. I really do. Sorry, I didn't have it ready, but this only calls for this. All right, let's find this here. Where is I at? Let me see. A version of TED Talk. Sharing edited or truncated versions of TED Talks is strictly prohibited as it undermines the integrity of the speaker's ideas. I didn't undermine the integrity of the speaker's ideas. She took care of that herself.
It didn't undermine her trying to. Who was it Mike she was dragging through the mud in her TED Talk, or was it Greg? I've lost track because I've only watched that TED Talk once or twice, and that was ages ago. I'm not going to watch it again because I found it dull and boring. And she told this. I think it was about Mike and not being on the airplane, and an anonymous woman allegedly wrote her a note talking about, how she felt for Laura being abused, which was, of course, bullshit. That was a narrative being proffered by Laura to the courts to try and obtain a protective order against Mike and also Greg, but in slightly different circumstances, to keep them silent. And unfortunately, she was somewhat successful in that ruse. But let's, lest we interrupt Mike in his reading of Laura's threatening email to him that, how dare you bring this public, and how dare you... She sent this to a lot of people. She sent very similar things to Dave, and Dave being so prolific, Dave Neal, of course, we're talking about, in the coverage of this case, she got pretty nasty. She got downright nasty and tried to sue him for all kinds of things. But lest I get ahead of myself, as previously mentioned.
In addition to my full name was shown. This blatantly breaches the TEDx usage policy. It was shown on your video, which is public. I didn't let the cat out of the bag, okay? Sweet Jesus. And the clip was utilized for the purpose of harassment. It was utilized for the purpose of context about your court appearance, okay? As proven by the humiliating comment you made after it played. I don't remember what comment I made, but it probably wasn't favorable. According to her, I'm required by law to only talk about sunshine and rainbows with respect to her because she's special. This is the level of entitlement we're talking about. Okay.
And that is the entirety of Laura Owens' position. She's entitled. Ergo, no one can say anything. But of course, legally speaking, that's very untrue. That's why we have the First Amendment. The First Amendment is quite something. And this is why we have it.
I can't emphasize enough how terrified I am of Mr. Neal's relentless obsession and harassment towards me. Really. Recently, I discovered the extent of his fixation, as there was a map leading to my home that appeared on his Patreon. Screenshots documenting this are herein for your review. I didn't look at her attachments. Take it up with him if that's the case. I'm prepared to provide any necessary evidence to substantiate my claims, especially regarding my pregnancy with Clayton Echard, as well as my 2 prior, should you require it. I don't require anything. I provided commentary on a court clip. If you would like to come on my channel and provide proof of your pregnancy, that's up to you. You are welcome to do so. I will have you on, and you can show us all your belly, and you can provide us with documentation. However, given your history of doctoring documentation, or at least allegedly doctoring documentation, as alleged in the hearing that you were in, I would take any documentation you provided me with a grain of salt. You would be much better served proving your case in court where it matters than to me. However, you're more than welcome to come on my show and give your side. And if you provide me documentation, I will show it. That does not mean I necessarily will agree with it. If this is why I seriously doubt your claims. It's so easy to prove. You may be pregnant and he may be the father of those children. That is a simple test. That is a simple DNA test that can be obtained. And if that's the case, well, then you've got no problem. I'm saying based upon the information that was before me, I don't believe you. Your demeanor, your actions, and the fact that you don't, that you make these allegations without the proof of it, which any rational person would think is required. Also, there are allegations, and I wasn't there, that you've done this on a prior occasion. And to the, you know, I wasn't here for any of this stuff. I wasn't in the state where any of this occurred. I haven't been following it. I don't represent anybody involved. I'm just saying these are verifiable things one way or the other. And the fact that we're taking this long to verify it seriously makes me doubt your claims. There's a very simple way for, and although that's just me and an opinion, why don't you prove it? Why don't you prove it in the court where it matters? At some point, if you want it proved that he's the father, then get a DNA test, have an attorney file a motion, get his DNA. Although it seems to me that he was complying with that. Another thing that makes me not believe you, the Mr. Echard, it appears, was willing to do a DNA test, but you didn't follow through with it, as far as I can tell. If you want to come on my show, I will entertain your side of it. However, if you say a bunch of silly things, I will question them. So there you have it. There you have it. It goes on and on. There's more. It's more crazy. There are multiple messages. There are multiple messages and attachments. I'm not going to carry on with it.
Of course there were, because that's what she does. In multiple paragraphs and multiple ways and multiple times. That's par for the course for Laura Owens and her communications and her threats. What a shock.
I'm not going to carry on with it. She threatens it. I give her a response. It's very brief. There you go.
And through those stories appearing on Law Talk with Mike and the appearance of Dave, it led me to Dave and his voluminous coverage of this story. We might say that Dave is the first reporter. Of course, not only is he a professionally funny guy, but he likes to cover stories. And his forte happens to be Bachelor News or Bachelor Nation News. That's not quite a subject or a show that I'm necessarily interested in, but the antics of this case are what drew me in. How outrageous! When we're supposed to believe all women that a woman should come forward with an outlandish claim of pregnancy under outlandish circumstances, like a couple blowjobs. That's extraordinary. And the case would blow up to be something far bigger than just BJ's. It would blow up to be a full-blown case of scam and fraud and patterns of behavior. Patterns of former behavior with other men. It would turn into a whole cavalcade of many years of seemingly and possibly criminal misconduct. And of course, watching Dave for a while, one discovers other things. Dave did not hold this story alone. He entered the scene where other people start covering this story. Through Dave, there were other people. Dave's appearance led us to Megan Fox. Megan Fox is, of course, a noted journalist, primarily with PJ Media, and certainly someone who covers things on her own channel, of which we've been a participant and observer since this case broke. And Meghan has covered many things. And lest I sound flattering just for the sake of flattery, I find myself quite captivated by Megan Fox and her cause for justice. Certainly her calls for justice too. And while perhaps politically we may not align on some things, I would absolutely walk down the street holding hands with people like this for the cause of justice all day long. When they believe in values that cover all Americans and not just a select few or just an elite, those are people worth having as allies. And while I'm not sure I could consider myself one of Meghan's official homos, Meghan's homos, hashtag Meghan's homos, I very much appreciate her approach to stories that are important, stories that won't necessarily get picked up by legacy media. How else would we hear about scams of people trying to claim they're pregnant for the sake of attaching themselves to men of some degree of social prominence and status and fame? And to learn that those stories of pregnancy that were claimed against a Bachelor cast member, shall we call him, former football player, which was not a surprise. How else would we know that her story would turn out to be an absolute fraud? If it weren't for people like Dave and Meghan, and certainly it doesn't end with Megan Fox. Oh yes, the rabbit hole keeps going deeper. Megan Fox covered all aspects of this story, along with Dave in many instances. Other people would appear with Megan Fox, including IT Goatee Brad. One of the biggest ones who also carried the story, and who still works together with Megan Fox, that umbrella guy, Tug. His playlist for Laura Owens is quite extensive as well. Very extensive. Of course, he's moved on to What the Hales, which is an even bigger case than this, if you can imagine that. I thought this one with Laura Owens was rather substantive. It just goes to show that there's many degrees of crazy concentration just in this country alone. The What the Hales case is absolutely off the charts. Everything from lawyer misconduct to all kinds of sanctionable criminal activities. It's absolutely outrageous. The Laura Owens case pales in comparison to What the Hales in many regards, although it does seem to be sort of a microcosm. A client making outlandish claims, an attorney who's just absolutely off the walls bonkers. Not nearly bonkers as some of Lynette Preston's attorneys, allegedly. But the histrionics seem to run in some sort of parallel. Crazy people doing crazy things with crazy lawyers. I mean, that could be a whole LawTube subcategory of its own, I think. But Tug certainly has quite a following, almost 400,000 subscribers now. His exposure brought on other people. But it was mostly through Megan Fox that we learn about even more people. Liz Neptune was a target of Laura Owens while covering the case, was threatened with litigation. Liz has not said a whole lot in this case in recent months. Once you cover the big scoop, which was the trial, really it's a matter of details at the end. And to follow the antics of them trying to defend their rather undefensible claims and their undefensible appeals. And we'll see more of that as they try and file to the Supreme Court of Arizona. After Liz, we discovered Lauren Knighty, who appeared on occasion with Dave and popped in on Megan Fox's channel. Lauren has since changed her channel to the Court of Random Opinion in the last month or two. But she still touches on this subject rather intensely when not covering the Justin Baldoni case. But no, the coverage of Laura Owens and Clayton Echard and Laura Owens' pregnancy scam doesn't end there. Bruce from Oregon, a.k.a. Bruce the Moose, was also a regular participant in many of these panel discussions on various channels. His rather stellar logical process seems to be unmatched. He knows far more about logical fallacies and following all the chains of logic far better than I could ever hope to. And as part of a team of people, Lauren, Bruce, and some others, we came across the Tilted Lawyer, Omar Serrato, an attorney in the California area who works in family law. How interesting to have a practicing attorney in family law cases chime in on a family law case involving Laura Owens and Clayton Echard and what turns out to be an enormous pregnancy scam over many years. Omar hosted a number of conversations as part of his Family Law After Dark and some other ones where he would just try and discuss with Laura Owens' attorney, Dingus the Douche Canoe.
The fucking douche canoe.
And started to see his true colors as a douche canoe lawyer. There's a lot in Omar's coverage of Laura Owens. But Schnitzel Ninja reigns supreme in providing the documentation. Schnitzel has numerous postings covering readings of trial and court documents and other sources of relevant information, including other court cases not paternity related with the Owens family, including Laura and Elizabeth Naylor Owens, Laura's mom, the lone cactus construction complaint, and also some of the police cam footage of wellness checks to Laura Owens at the Scottsdale residence. Schnitzel Ninja's coverage has been very precise and very professional. But it doesn't end there. IT Goatee Brad is a regular participant in panel discussions on the various channels. His very stellar concept of legal matters is always brought into the equation. They're not alone in their coverage. There are other people, including Chubby Von Doobie, who for a period of time covered this case, but there hasn't been any recent follow-ups on Chubby's page. But we're glad for the coverage there. And no, that's not enough. There's also Loud Little Ducky, with coverage on a multitude of cases, of which Owens versus Gillespie is but one of many, and is still current. And some of the more recent entrants into discussions of this case, aside from myself, Pop Crime TV with Lauren Conlon, and the incredible analytic prowess of Jack Fox, who reads some of the postings by Laura and other things, and with great skill and adept awareness through very specific analytical training, is able to give us better context as to whether or not Laura Owens is credible. We've covered some of the readings of Lauren Conlon and Jack Fox briefly on this channel, and their perspectives on this case have been invaluable to fomenting even more solid understanding on who this person is named Laura Owens and what could be her potential motivations behind her commission of these acts and seemingly criminal acts against Clayton Echard. But because there are multiple sides of every story, Clayton has made the rounds on other podcasts, including Nick Vile and numerous others, sharing his side of the story. And of course, Laura Owens herself made minimal appearances. For the most part, as far as we're aware, she only appeared with her attorney Dingus the Douche Canoe.
The fucking douche canoe.
On his little fledgling channel, where she didn't say much. And it was 90% her attorney talking and mostly her agreeing. We're not going to share that channel any more than we find it necessary, because we don't think they deserve the watch hours, quite honestly. You're entitled to make your own choices and do what you wish and watch them if you so desire. I've watched through some of them myself, actually many of them, if not all. But we don't find what they contribute to be worthwhile. Because as we have seen, and as we have discussed many times, that which they contribute on the Douche Canoe Podcast Network with Laura Owens is nothing of great substance nor fact. It's mostly just a smear campaign hoping to offset the publicity of this case. But it won't undo the damage she has done to these men. It won't undo the damage she has done to Clayton Echard. And this is why we continue to praise and support Rachel Mitchell, who mentioned the daily reception of letters, encouraging her to continue to investigate and, we hope, prosecute this case against Laura Owens. We've gone through most of the details and sort of the origins of my interest in this story. And my interest goes far beyond just being another voice in a cubbyhole. Because I, too, like Megan Fox, have values that appreciate justice, that appreciate and uphold free speech, and appreciate righting wrongs to people who may not otherwise be able to defend themselves from the vicious attacks and the malicious intent of people like Laura Owens. And it's with all of these discussions and all the exposure, however small it may be from someone like myself, that we hope to continue to keep the light on. Like Motel 6, we want to leave the light on for everybody in the halls of justice. And we want to leave the light on in the halls of justice for Clayton Echard, for Greg Gillespie, for Michael Maricini, for other Greg, for Andrew, I think his name is. I think I said it that way last time too. I'm trying to avoid using his name because he hasn't entered the public fray yet. At least I'm pretty sure, I believe that's his name. I've got that somewhere buried in my files. The more light that is given to this case, the best hope we can to right the wrongs in exposing inappropriate behavior and exposing fraudulent behavior and exposing criminal behavior, and hoping that Rachel Mitchell and the county attorney's office will find value in stopping this before more people are injured and harmed by Laura Owens. We all feel it's time for this to stop. It's time to put an end to this charade, and whatever it takes for Miss Owens to learn a lesson and course correct her life to being far more productive, and being productive beyond slapping up little websites for herself and her family's little ventures, and doing something productive that doesn't involve faking pregnancies and coercing and extorting men into relationships with her. There's no reason why she can't be like any other human being and be successful in that regard of living a productive, honest, moral-filled life and be successful. And that's the American dream, is to be able to live out one's life with some degree of prosperity if you work for it, put in the hard work, and try not to scam, screw, and commit crimes against your fellow citizens. It's not much to ask. It's not much to ask to live in what many consider to still be a land of prosperity and a land of freedoms. Follow your bliss, but don't trample on the rights of others, and don't do so criminally. Certainly don't trample on the rights of others to say, I don't want to date you. I'm sorry. We shouldn't have fooled around, and you shouldn't have given me 2 blowjobs. That shouldn't be recourse to ruin someone's life and fake a pregnancy over. One should be able to cry a little bit, maybe feel a little angry, crash around the pool house, and then move on. It shouldn't turn into a full-blown court case with a douche canoe attorney.
A fucking douche canoe.
Whose ego is wider than the Sahara Desert, hoping to get a Supreme Court ruling in his favor. There's just too much nonsense with this case. Far too much nonsense. In future episodes, we may cover some other recaps, because the entertainment value alone in those cases and in those hearings is certainly worth a giggle. So we shall stroll down memory lane in the future and revisit some of the highlights and the hits of Laura Owens versus Clayton Echard while we await a Supreme Court filing from Dingus the Douche Canoe. In the event that we hear from Rachel Mitchell that Laura Owens might be punished,
I think they should be punished. Punish, 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 punish.
We will cover that. So, the race is on. Who will be first? Dingus the douche canoe or Rachel Mitchell? It could be a photo finish. We shall see. We shall see. But we will continue to cover the Laura Owens saga as much as there is something worth covering. Even if it is highlighting nonsensical blogs full of mischaracterizations, quotes out of context, or manufactured quotes? Surely not. Surely not. Oh, the arts and crafts may never end. But until that time, when more gets published or released or shared, we shall wait, we shall watch, and we shall hope good things. Future headlines may say prosecution of Laura Owens imminent, but we won't put the cart before the horse just yet. Well, stay tuned for Rachel Mitchell. And on that note, please like and subscribe, and in hopes that you will stay tuned here with us in the cubbyhole. So long for now.